Hey Tara, you want some? This bitch empty.
Back in Season 6, I started watching this challenger player named Keegan. He was a top lane Pantheon main and was consistently in the top 10 players in North America. This was an incredible accomplishment, and when I was climbing to Diamond for the first time, I decided to copy his strategy and spam Pantheon top. I was extremely successful and boasted a good win rate, but then Pantheon got reworked, and I'm not sure why, but I just tend to stay away from newly reworked champions and not play them. I just view them as new champions altogether, so it kind of turns me off. But I shouldn't have, because Pantheon is super broken, and this season I haven't been using him in the top lane where most people use him, but I brought him into the mid lane, and guys, it stops. The reason I started playing Pantheon this season is similar to the reason I picked him up in the first place. I saw that the rank 1 player in Korea was one-tricking talent, but every once in a while he would bring out Pantheon mid and it would destroy even the challenger mid laners in Korea. This got me to realize that if I wanted to start to climb again, I needed to adopt a similar strategy that I had a couple of years ago, except this time I would use them in the mid lane. Y'all know how these videos go. This is not an in-depth guide that talks about the ins and the outs of the champions. I'm not good enough to do that. Plus, there are so many other guides on YouTube that offer that. So if that's what you're looking for, guys, this video is not for you. But I do want to focus on some of the things that I like and don't like about the champion, and then give you guys a couple of solid nuggets of information that you can use in your games to climb. I think today we'll start about the things I don't like about Pantheon because it's short, and I want to put a little contrast in this video, but also at the end, I'll be going over some of the different runes and build options if you care. So stay here until the end, and we'll be going over some of that housekeeping stuff. Now, let's get into the stuff that I don't like. Like some of the other champions that I've been playing recently, this list is relatively short. So those of you who don't like negativity or criticism, don't worry, this will be over soon. The first thing that I don't like about playing Pantheon is that he has no escape. Now, don't get this confused with not having a gap closer. Pantheon's W allows him to jump onto a champion, stunning them for a short duration, but this is primarily an offensive ability. He can't use it when he's getting ganked and just bounce away. Now, this is an issue with most older champions. The new champions just have so much mobility that it's hard for the older ones to keep up. Yes, I know he was recently reworked, but that does not change the era that he was designed and developed in. Now, his W works both ways, and this is probably why it stuck out to me so much. When I was super ahead, I had no issue with Pantheon not having a gap closer because I never had to run away. I was just winning every fight I found myself in, and his W serves the purpose of gap closing and stunning. But when myself and my team fell behind, I wasn't getting the advantages in the early game that I was used to. Then Pantheon felt like a very slow and immobile champion. The second thing I don't like about Pantheon is that he has some pretty weak matchups. Some that come to mind are Akali and Cassiopeia. Akali can just out-duel his burst and CC while evading auto attacks with her W, and Cassiopeia can just ult and ground Pantheon whenever he jumps on her because he's always facing towards her in midair. I'm pretty sure I've lost both of these matchups and they just aren't any fun to play against, so watch out for those, but for the most part, Pantheon smashes most mid laners. Sweet, that wasn't bad, right? That didn't take very long. Now let's get on to that good. I think the most appropriate way to start out what I like about Pantheon is to talk about his oppressive laning phase. The original Pantheon was great during the early laning phases, but now they made him even better by adding a couple of key elements to his kit. The first thing that they added was a slow on his Q whenever he had 5 stacks. This allows you to harass more easily, catch up to low champions, and do more overall damage to the enemy. The second element they added was to give him invulnerability. Although his E grants him immunity to all damage, it is only in the direction that he is aiming. This ability makes tower dives so strong either solo or with your jungler, and don't even think about playing against a Pantheon with an Elise jungle. You should just get out of that match ASAP. Although Pantheon received some changes in his recent rework, his oppression and early lane dominance is still there, except almost stronger. Riot added so much to his kit that they thought that they needed to add some counterplay, and guess how they did that? No, I'll give you a second, just think about it, think hard. What would they have added? They turned his Q into a projectile. That was Riot's master plan on giving Pantheon more counterplay. I'm not sure why they thought this would even out the rest of his kit, because it definitely did not, and probably made him stronger. Not only did they increase his range, but they even allowed him to cast Q in a short distance instantly, which makes executing and wave clearing so much easier as well. I'm not really sure what they were going for. The charge time on his Q is still really fast, and it's harder to miss than to even hit his Q. This rework kept everything great about Pantheon while packing even more stuff into his kit. One of the reasons that Pantheon is so great specifically in the mid lane is that he counters almost all of the OP mid lane assassins. His burst, along with his ability to zone, can grant you a big early lead if you can avoid some early ganks. His E is great at dodging abilities like Syndra Ultimate, Zed Ult, and Fizz. Also, if you hate playing against immobile laners like Yasuo and Katarina, then you're in luck because Pantheon is a direct counter to these champions. Most low elo players are just afraid of champions like Yasuo because they have lost lane to them in the past. But what they don't understand is that without their mobility, they're squishier than most ADCs. All it takes is a little point and click CC to send them back into their client. There are a lot of champions that have CC, but Pantheon has such an easy stun to land. His W helps him set up ganks and solo kills on these champions super easily, allowing you to continue to stop even as the game goes later and later. I know a lot of this video has already been dedicated to his early laning, but that's just what makes this champion so strong and the reality of who Pantheon is. If you can't get an early lead, which guys, it's pretty easy to do, they're not going to be very useful throughout the rest of the game. But lucky for you, it's pretty darn easy and you're going to be alright. Which ability to take level 1 is a bit contentious among Pantheon mains, but I understand because there is really an argument for taking all 3 abilities level 1. So I'm going to give you a basic guideline to follow so that you can set up your early laning phase as best as possible so you can snowball the rest of the game. You want to take Q against melee opponents and W for ranged opponents. Now other Pantheon mains might disagree with me, but I really don't care because this is what's worked best for me. Q is great against melee champions because he can cast it instantly as a jab. This does so much damage if you have 5 stacks, and the slow helps you trade with a couple of autos as well. Taking W against ranged matchups allows you to have a gap closer at level 1. Most ranged mid laners will try to bully and harass you early, so taking W will allow you to close that gap and get some early trades in. Even more, getting on top of a ranged mid laner instantly gets rid of the ranged advantage, and the stun allows the trade to go in your favor. In the end, you can take whatever ability you want level 1, but all of his abilities are fine, so don't worry about it too much. Just make sure that you take W eventually because it'll set up a lot of easy kills. Another thing that is so iconic about Pantheon is that he is so easy to play. Now with his recent rework that added a skill shot and some more ways to outplay him, but from a champion design, his abilities are very easy to understand and a player at any rank can pick him up and find success. Although there's a certain amount of game knowledge needed to pull off some of the more advanced plays like diving and tanking aggro with his E, or knowing the right time to use his ultimate, these rely more on game knowledge and not overall usage of a champion. So as you play the game more, you will figure these out. So if you're below diamond, go ahead and pick him up and find some easy wins. I know I just mentioned it, but Pantheon is like the better AD version of Twisted Fate. He has more lane pressure, a stun, a global ultimate, and he is just so good at catching out champions who are out of position. This happens all of the time, so having a champion that can capitalize on these mistakes will give you a lot of early leads and easy wins. Alrighty, for those of you who care, here are the runes that I have personally been using on Pantheon. Conquer is broken and can be used on most champions, but when playing Pantheon in the mid lane, I think Electrocute and the Inspiration Tree is just a little bit better of a combination. The Biscuits allow him to sustain against a harass from ranged opponents and keep him alive a little bit longer in fights. And as always, Electrocute does a lot of damage, so that's always great to have in the mid lane. Also, I know many other guides have been telling people to build full lethality on Pantheon, but I find that the games that I build full lethality, I end up just feeding. So I suggest you go from Youmuu's into Black Cleaver and then kind of decide what works best the rest of the game. Umbral Grave is so good for its value, as well as Dustblade and Edge of Night. Another item you could think about getting early is GA, because you'll be diving in most fights, so having a Guardian Angel will allow you to stay alive longer and output more damage and CC. Alright guys, that is all. This has been Snowda. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.